At the same time, we need to have in mind that talking about minority, we do not refer to a position, but to a kind of relation, actually a power relation, between the minority and the majority. Minority is a group of people who cannot define and impose the norm. Minority means inferiority and, in cases, subalternity. Focusing now on ethnic or historical minorities, such as this in Greek Thrace, we see that people in general become minority through a minoritization process. In the case we study, what made people create the certain minority is a series of oppressive steps which were bringing the members of the minority closer to each other and made them feel that more or less they have the same destiny. We refer to all these oppressive measures implemented on them by the Greek state after implementation of similar and even harder measures that were implemented on the Greek Orthodox minority of Turkey, mainly during the 1964-1983 period, which resulted in the vast majority of the Rum people to abandon their fatherlands in Turkey and seek for refuge in Greece or elsewhere. More specifically, we refer to restrictions regarding the repair of their houses and acquisition of new land, to the strict administrative control and underfunding of the minority educational system in Thrace, and to the fact that the diplomas acquired by Thracian Muslims from Turkish universities were not recognized, etc. After the decade of 1990s, the situation in Thrace gradually improved. And nowadays, there is not the slightest indication that the minority people in Thrace, it is estimated that some 80,000 people live permanently in the area, face any kind of deprivation of human rights. Nowadays, the grandsons and granddaughters of the Muslims who were exempted from the 1923 Greek-Turkish population exchange and remained on the lands of Greek Thrace, practice Islam in various levels and intensity, speak both their mother tongues and Greek in various levels or fluency, which always depends on the status of the individuals. These people have various levels of affiliation with the Turkish state and various levels of sense of belonging to the Turkish nation, as well to the Greek nation, carrying actually a plural identity. However, the minority identity is still present and strong among the members of the minority. This is the issue we're going to focus on, based on recent field research findings, which will be examined under the lights of the social psychology. As mentioned above, during the last century, Thracian Muslims passed through a certain minoritization process, building in this way a collective self-image and a collective identity. Undoubtedly, all these traumatic events played a decisive role. However, despite the fact that the experiences have been reported as traumatic and are related to the minority identity, they have not in fact been lived recently by the people who recount them. Let's not forget the fact that the feeling of having been victimized is an important element of the collective identity bequeathed by previous generations. A significant number of Thracian minority Muslims, when asked and feeling free to talk, refer to a variety of negative feelings such as inequality, insecurity, subalternity, and fear. Thus, these emotions seem to be among the most important ingredients for the construction of the group identity. In case they have a chance, these people refer in extent to all the events which injured the collective self. The remarkable thing here is that the events mentioned have not been directly experienced by the informants. They have been narrated to them from the previous generations. However, they are recounted in such a realistic way and under such a strong emotional charge that gives the impression that these are facts directly experienced by them a couple of months ago. Unquestionably, these certain events happened. However, in order to be accurate and consistent with the scientific discipline, we have to note here that the important thing is the narration of the facts. Actually, a certain narrative, created and validated by the community elites, has the element of suffering in the center of its existence, which is at the same time the most important element that connects the past, present, and future generations. And here, we are facing a phenomenon defined by social psychologists as collective cultural trauma. As the sociologist Jeffrey Alexander points out, I quote, "When the members of a community experience a tragic event which overshadows them with negative feelings and haunts their collective memory, while fundamentally transforming their future identity and its future construction, a narrative is directly related to the theory of cultural trauma is born." Certainly, the distance between the construction of such a narrative and its establishment as a case of cultural or minority trauma is neither short nor can it be converted easily. We have to keep in mind that a necessary condition for considering a socially traumatic event as a case of cultural trauma is the occurrence of a representation process through which the social crisis will firstly be interpreted and then gradually codified in the collective consciousness as a cultural crisis. An example could be a process during which the traumatic event is being represented and conveyed as a threat to the collective self, the collective identity, and the collective continuity. Researchers agree that only through a social process of representation can a traumatic event be transformed into a case of cultural trauma. It has been argued that cultural trauma is not only defined as the sum of many individual traumatic experiences, but its establishment requires the construction of its meaning and its domination in the context of public discourse as an integral element of collective identity and memory. Additionally, it is noted that the traumatic event must undergo a process of cultural construction that will forge a narrative that will consequently prevail over the other alternative narratives that may be proposed. And in order to make this statement more comprehensible, this narrative, after its prevalence as dominant, should form the reference point, the basis on which the trauma has been built and is experienced in three interrelated levels: the cognitive, the emotional, and the mnemonic. This is the situation for the Thracian minority Muslims. Having suffered because of their culture, they have created a narrative on their collective identity based on the negative experiences lived in the past and on a conviction that the continuation of this experience must be considered almost certain in order to be experienced by generations to come. Based on that, the elders consider as their duty to prepare the next generations for what will come, while all face great difficulties to renegotiate the frame and reinvent a collective self which will be disengaged from the element of the collective cultural trauma, since such an approach and such a movement is considered to be a loss of identity. Thank you very much for your attention.
Biz teşekkür ederiz konuşmanız için. Marlomatis.
We are here I am, and we are at your disposal for any question or I don't know.
Evet, ben sabitleme yapıyorum.
Yes. We need to hear the translation in English, please. If it is in Turkish.
Tamam, seni görüyoruz ve duyuyoruz artık.
Okay.
Yorgo buyur.
We have no. What I said is that we are at your disposal if there are any questions, and if there are questions, please let the questions be in English or a translation in English so we can understand both.
Zaman daraldığı için soru alamayacağız. Çünkü bundan sonra yuvarlak masa toplantısı var.
Tamam.
Çok geç kaldık. Senin söyleyeceklerin varsa onları dinliyoruz.
It's okay for us. We don't need to add something more. We thank you very much for this participation. We wish to have a fruitful Toparlak Masa House round table there. I wish them faith.
Evet, seni dinliyoruz. Daha bir 5 dakikanız var.
Yok dedi.
Söyleyecekleri yok. Peki, zamanı çok iyi kullandığınız için ekstra teşekkürler.
Rica